Welcome, Climate Viewers. My name is Jim Lee from Climate Viewer News at climateviewer.com with facts minus fear porn. And today we're going to cover geoengineering governance. India, the monsoons, plane farts, and dead people. So what do these all have in common? I'm going to really break this down. You guys are going to be pretty surprised by this. But what is it all about? It's about rain. So despite what people will say about geoengineering have everything to do with global warming, it has more to do with rainfall and dead people than anything else. And of course, writing laws that are going to infringe on your liberty, to say the least. That's communitarian law. If you guys haven't looked that word up, communitarian law. But before we get into the details, I just want to thank everybody on patreon.com/climateviewer who have been supporting me over the last year. And if you'd like to give a one-time donation, you can do that on PayPal or GoFundMe. So I've already covered David Keith's upcoming experiment called SCoPEx. And this is supposed to happen in the spring of 2019. Well, it was supposed to actually happen back in Arizona in this fall, but it got delayed. So, you know, I had every intention on showing up in Arizona and raising hell about that, but it got delayed, so we'll just have to save that for another day. But interestingly enough, if you look into what's going on here, basically David Keith is, furthering an idea that was put out by Bill Gates called the Strato Shield. It's now known as the Strato Cruiser. And this is the Strato Cruiser flight system, which is basically going to be held up by a balloon. And it's got this tether that drops down to the stratosphere to measure all the stuff they're spraying. So they're going to test legalized geoengineering come this spring. That's the plan. But there's a lot of pushback, and there's several reasons for that. So, chief among them, geoengineering has been banned. So, this is the Convention for Biological Diversity and COP10 mandate, and it says very clearly, let's scroll over here, that no climate geoengineering activities that may affect biodiversity take place until there's adequate scientific basis on which to justify such activities. But that small-scale scientific research studies that could be conducted in controlled setting are permissible. And that they need prior assessment for potential impacts on the environment. So even though geoengineering is banned, this is the Convention for Biological Diversity. The United States did not sign this as well. Just like COP21, we're out of that. The Paris Accord. America did not sign off on this geoengineering ban. So there's your first raging clue. But that hasn't stopped people from freaking out. So David Keith has really got a lot of people freaked out this time. So that's why you see an article. This is December 5th, 2018. Panelists call for creation of World Commission to handle solar radiation management. Now, this is kind of ironic because that actually happened several years ago, and it's known as the Solar Radiation Management Governance Initiative, or SRMGI. But there's been a new development at the SRMGI, which you can see right here. Here's their logo, Solar Radiation Management Governance Initiative. They are at srmgi.org. All of the links that I'm showing tonight are already in the details, so you guys can just click along. That took a second. But they have this thing called the Decimals Fund, and I found this fascinating. Launched in April 2018, the Decimals Fund, or Developing Country Impacts Modeling Analysis for SRM, or Solar Radiation Management, is the world's first international SRM modeling fund and the first exclusively for scientists in the global south. Why? Because people in the southern hemisphere are going to be more affected than anybody else by solar radiation management. Why? Because it's going to dry up their climate. They're going to not have rainfall, which will kill people. Details on that coming up very shortly. From 2018 to 2020, the Decimals Fund will distribute more than $430,000 of grants to Southern scientists as they research how solar radiation management geoengineering could affect some of the world's poorest countries and most climate vulnerable regions. $500,000 thrown at a bunch of, scientists in the Southern Hemisphere to figure out that, the white boys in the North are going to kill them all is kind of like a big slap in the face. Especially when you look at, who's on the list of, the board of trustees over here at the SRMGI decimals thing. So Argentina, Bangladesh, Benin, Indonesia, Iran, Ivory Coast, Jamaica, South Africa. And it says, meet our collaborators. And I, saw some friendly faces that I already know. Kind of interesting research collaborators. Dr. Pete Irvine. Where have I heard that name before? Oh boy, you're not going to believe what Pete Irvine said before. Pete Irvine is postdoctoral research fellow at the Harvard School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, working in Professor David Keith's group. Boom. Professor Ben Kravitz. Ben Kravitz is he's the coordinator of the Geoengineering Model Intercomparison Project, GeoMIP, and he is the guy who has more than anybody else said that geoengineering is going to affect rainfall patterns worldwide. So these two guys alone, very familiar to me, should be familiar names to you. And yes, Harvard has the Harvard Geoengineering Research program. So it's no coincidence. There are no coincidences. But back to this Pete Irvine guy. What did Pete Irvine say? Back in 2010 on Ken Caldera's Geoengineering Group, he said, solar radiation management geoengineering, how to deal with the losers. And losers are dead people. So, and I've read this quote many times. I'm not going to read it again. Links are in the details. But if any given year there are floods, droughts, heat waves, etc., during a field trial of geoengineering, a fraction of these events would be attributed rightfully or wrongfully, partially or fully, to the geoengineering intervention. Two questions arise. Could it be determined that any changes in the climate outside the target area had occurred as a result of the geoengineering during a 10-year trial? How would aggrieved nations or dead people seek reparations for perceived negative impacts, like dead people, scientifically proven or otherwise? Best regards, Pete Irvine, PhD student at the time, University of Bristol. So he's now, obviously graduated and working with David Keith at Harvard. And, back in 2010, he post this goes right to the heart of things. How do you deal with the losers? That's what solar radiation management governance is about. Is about how to deal with the losers. That's why they're calling for a creation of a world commission to handle solar radiation management. Which brings us to the news for today. India should demand international political oversight of geoengineering research and development. India. Now, why do you think India? What makes this so interesting? Some high-level scientific pronouncements have assumed stewardship of the climate geoengineering in absence of other agents. This is dangerous, as effects on the Indian monsoons will show. So what they've shown over and over, time and time again, through all of the geoengineering research studies is that basically it's going to affect rainfall worldwide. It's going to dry up the Amazon basin. Injecting sulfur into the stratosphere will immediately create an El Nino, and it will affect the monsoons in Southeast Asia, affecting predominantly India, China, Korea, North and South, Vietnam, that whole area. They could see torrential floods. So between drying up in the southern hemisphere and getting extremely wet in the northern hemisphere, their floods could become biblical, to say the least. So that's why India is in on this thing now. So India should demand international political oversight of geoengineering R&D. This is a very extremely well-referenced article. If you're going to read something, please read this, because it really goes through a lot of the science behind it. Drop the link in chat. It's already in the details. But this is where the rubber meets the road. So why does this matter to me? What is the real coincidence here? Well, I think we all know about what we all call chemtrails, and me and my daughter call plane farts, but this is really it. Black carbon from aircraft exhaust is destroying ozone, melting poles, and affecting the monsoons in India. This is dated 2017, October 25th, 2017. So I've had this up for quite a while. And interestingly enough, the Indian Institute of Science and ISRO's Vikram Sarabhi Space Center find evidence of black carbon up to 18 kilometers in the stratosphere. What? So what everybody's calling chemtrails, this black soot or black carbon is traveling upwards where it shouldn't be, and they found it there. And this is the exact quote. Let's blow it up real big. Though airborne, black carbon is known to dissipate and settle down in a few months under the influence of rain and wind, and is unlikely to travel upwards of 4 kilometers. However, a group of scientists, including the Indian Institute of Science and ISRO Vikram Sarabhi Space Center, say they now have evidence of such particles existing up to 18 kilometers in the stratosphere, and there are about 10,000 of them in every cubic centimeter. Given the shape and location of these particles, they argue, it could only derive from emissions from aviation fuel. And they pose a problem because these black carbon particles can linger long enough to provide a fertile ground for other chemical reactions that can deplete the ozone layer. And this, I've got 3 references on this. First scientific reference from Atmospheric Chemistry and Physics. Possible climatic implications of high altitude black carbon emissions. And this is from the Indian Institute of Science. These are the guys, Vikram Sarabhi Space Center. This is their actual scientific paper they published. And here's some news related to it. This one originally was titled different. It says airplanes may be affecting ozone layer. But if you look at the URL, it says airplanes may be affecting ozone monsoon. You can go to the Wayback Machine and see that they took the word monsoon out of the title, because that's really the important part. But regardless, these airplane farts, plane exhaust, are basically traveling upwards. So I made a nice little infographic on this where you can see that. So what's happening is basically planes are flying around as high as 12 kilometers, 39,000 feet. And that's called the tropopause. That's where the troposphere ends, and that's where the stratosphere begins. And the ozone layer is between 20 to 30 kilometers, or 12 to 19 miles. Now, they found soot, black carbon, from planes all the way up here in the ozone layer. Why is this important? Because that's exactly what geoengineers want to do. Stratospheric sulfur injections. So black carbon in soot is wrapped in sulfuric acid or sulfur dioxide. So if the black carbon is traveling upwards into the ozone layer, so is the sulfur. So planes are geoengineering, and they're affecting the ozone layer. By the way, soot carries metal and sulfur into the stratosphere, creates cirrus clouds. Aviation soot detected at 18 kilometers, 10,000 per cubic centimeter. Soot is filled with, here are all the metals, wait for it, chromium, iron, molybdenum, sodium, calcium, aluminum, vanadium, barium, cobalt, copper, nickel, lead, magnesium, manganese, silicone, titanium, and zirconium. All of this is being transported from where planes fart all the way into the stratosphere. So planes are putting toxic heavy metals into the stratosphere and sulfur, and the carrier is black carbon. This is proof. This is physical proof backed by science. Back to the story. So the other article, which is more appropriately titled, "Is Black Carbon Affecting Monsoons? India Today." It seems that scientists have zeroed in on the reason behind the erratic monsoons we have been facing of late. This is dated August 16th, 2017. So, planes are geoengineering already. Planes are already affecting the monsoons. And what do these guys talk about? They talk about, oh my God, geoengineering may affect the monsoons. Well, they're right. It already is. And it's coming from planes. So, tension between, this is also Pete Irvine, tensions between reducing sea level rise and global warming through solar radiation management. This is from 2012, and it talks about, some of those issues. Even better title, oh, you gotta love this, the hydrological impact of geoengineering in the Geoengineering Model Intercomparison Project, GeoMIP. And basically what they have found is that, there's Ben Kravitz right there. I knew he would be. Alan Robach. I know all these names. Jim Haywood, Peter Irvine. They're all in there. Olivier Boucher. He's anyway, I'm not going to get into all that. But regardless, all these guys know that it's going to kill people. It's going to affect rainfall worldwide. Don't believe me? Check this one out from 2016. Geoengineering, Weather Modification, and Weaponizing Nature. G. Edward Griffin flew me out to Arizona to the Freedom Force International's 3rd Congress in Phoenix, Arizona. And I gave a presentation there. The presentation, PowerPoint's like 85 pages long. And I managed to pull this off in 45 minutes. So you can watch the video. But if you go to the slides, and you can also buy the DVD set if you guys want to watch, the entire presentation. Basically, everybody there at the conference had a PhD except for me. You talk about overwhelmed. Oh my God. But this was recorded December 4th, 2016. And what did I have in the slides? Let's take a look. Geoengineering will kill people. First, I reference, what Peter Irvine said, that SRM will create winners and losers, Pete Irvine. And then this is what I really want to show you guys. This is called the IAGP, the Integrated Assessment of Geoengineering Proposals. Decision making for geoengineering. Why will it be challenging? And these are some of the quotes. The solar geoengineering led to serious side effects. Reduced rainfall over semi-arid areas south of the Sahara Desert, wind when it says when solar geoengineering stopped, the climate rapidly rebounded. We cannot tell how much cooling was caused by solar geoengineering and how much resulted from natural climate variability, e.g. volcanic eruptions. But you can see pretty clearly on their little map, wetter is blue, red is drier. So it's going to get extremely dry across the North Pole, and it's going to get dry across the equator, and it's going to rain out in the ocean, but it's going to be dry over, large parts. There's India, bright red. So who knows? These are computer models. I've been, done computer models myself. I did 3D Studio Max, Lightwave 3D, Maya. I made video games. I like to play first-person shooters. So I'm very familiar with modeling things in 3 dimensions, and a model is only good as the information you put into it. So when they make the GeoMIP or the IAGP, they're basically best guessing. And you know what? They model the weather all the time. And we all know that you can't get an accurate weather forecast 7 days out. So how the hell could they predict what's going to happen if they ever legalize geoengineering and go into that sort of thing? Buckle your seatbelts. So that's a real big issue. But regardless, it's going to change rainfall patterns worldwide. They know this. This is not up for debate. 3D printing, I really want, God, if I could get a 3D printer, the first thing I'm going to do is go into 3D Studio Max and model the entire HARP array, buildings and all, antennas and everything, and then 3D print it and put it like right here behind me. So I have a little 3D model of the HARP facility. But yeah, I would love a 3D printer. That'd be freaking epic. Don't get me started. You get me sidetracked. Bad chat, Ron. You're in timeout, Ron. But yeah, I would love to do that. So, and this is a pretty lengthy PowerPoint, and I talk about all kinds of things, geoengineering wise and otherwise. So you guys can check this out. It's a very, very lengthy presentation. But let's go to the next one. My other presentation is right here. The Climate Changers and Water Wars. Technocracy, Geoengineering, and Replacing the Water Cycle. Now this is where, we really get to the agenda. Because, in my opinion, since they know that geoengineering will kill people, since they know that planes are altering the climate, since they know that they are creating clouds and doing all of that sort of thing, you think that somebody would point out the obvious. So I'm going to point it out for you right now. They call it accidental geoengineering. So what is accidental geoengineering? Ship tracks and contrails. We're just using scientific terminology here today, people. So, proof and point, artificial clouds. Technocrats have decided to replace natural cloud formation with technological fixes dubbed accidental geoengineering, ship tracks, and aircraft contrail-induced cirrus clouds. 2 articles, one from MIT Technology Review. We're about to kill a massive accidental experiment in reducing global warming with ship tracks. They're trying to ban bunker fuel, which would mean that my email is actually Vance. It's jim@climateviewer.com. Just, I don't know if you're throwing my email up there. It's not Jim Lee. It's jim@climateviewer.com. Anyway, MIT Technology Review is basically complaining that they're going to ban bunker fuel, which would lead to less ship tracks. And then over on the other side from Smithsonian Magazine, airplane contrails may be creating accidental geoengineering. So there's two different, you see the word accidental in both of these. You know, it's not intentional, it's accidental. But we're going to continue to go on trying to legalize geoengineering. David Keith's still going to do his experiment that he knows is going to kill people. And everything else is just an accident. So that's really the crux of the problem. And I go through this in graphic detail. These are what ship tracks. And what they said, the Arctic Methane Emergency Group said when they were talking about geoengineering, they said, try to maintain or even enhance the current cooling effect from currently emitted sulfate or sulfur aerosols in the troposphere at mid to high northern latitudes. For example, the regulation to ban bunker fuel for ships should be relaxed while encouraging the continued use of bunker fuel, where the resulting aerosol emissions might be beneficial. Beneficial meaning they cool the planet. So this is not an accident. This is them literally saying, hey, we like these clouds because they cool the planet, and God forbid they go away, our accidental experiment will stop and it might warm up. So they're geoengineering with ship tracks already. They just call it accidental. Anyway, moving on. And then over here with the artificial clouds, contrail-induced cirrus clouds. Now, whether you want to call it a chemtrail, a contrail, or a plane fart, it is none of the above once it spreads out. Once it spreads out, it is a cirrus cloud. And that's why cirrus clouds matter. Hashtag cirrus clouds matter. Okay? We'll go back to this screen in just a second. But basically, I interviewed the head of the Aviation Climate Change Research Initiative at the FAA. His name is Dr. Rangasai Halthori. And he said, we would like to have more CICs, contrail-induced cirrus clouds, during the day and none during the night. Why? Because contrails during the day cause cooling because of reflecting sunlight back into space. During the night, they trap infrared heat, causing heating. So it is a balance between the two time intervals. If the time and place of seeding is selected with care, the climate effect of cirrus thinning can be enhanced. For that, only the long-wave warming effect of cirrus clouds should be targeted, and their solar effect should be avoided. This can be achieved by seeding if seeding is limited to high latitude winters or nighttime seeding. Ken Caldera. Climate change and geoengineering, artificially cooling planet Earth by thinning cirrus clouds. So, what are they talking about here? You got two things. Everybody talks about solar radiation management, SRM. SRM blocks incoming solar radiation and reflects it back to space. But the problem, the chemtrails, the plane farts, the cirrus clouds, they trap heat like a blanket. So at night, it stays warmer. They have now referred to cirrus cloud thinning or cirrus cloud seeding as Earth radiation management, ERM. And as Dr. Ulrich Schumann from the German Aerospace Center said at the ICAO Colloquium on Aviation and Climate Change, mitigation of contrails, we need less warming and more cooling contrails predictable for operational planning. And that's where we're at. This accident, this pollution for the last 60 years, no longer an accident. It is now, the goal is to create clouds by day, none by night. And the FAA has no intention of ever stopping making these clouds. They like them. And you have to ask yourself why, but we'll answer that question in just a second. So the truth of the matter is, they want to create clouds by day, and then at nighttime, seeding is limited to high latitude winters or nighttime seeding, that they could use chemicals to melt those clouds away at night so that the planet cools down. This is no joke. These are all referenced facts. And we go back to the soot thing. So that's what they're doing already. Planes are carrying sulfur and metals into the stratosphere. David Keith talked about putting aluminum and calcium and sulfur into the stratosphere. That's already happening. The Indian Space Organization already found out, caught him in the act. David Keith wrote a paper called Photophoretic Levitation of Engineered Nanoparticles. Guess what? Photophoretic levitation means the sun heats black things up and they levitate upwards. So black carbon and soot comes out of the back of a plane and then it goes up into the stratosphere. And that soot, that black carbon, is wrapped in sulfuric acid and loaded with metals. Whenever they tested cirrus clouds created by airplanes, they found that 75% of the seeds in the center of the ice crystals were metals. So, believe it or not, the vast majority of cirrus clouds are metal clouds. Let that sink in. And all of these metals are already in the jet fuel. Period, point blank. No special pumps or pipes required. So there's that infographic. And, you know, I list that on my 10 technologies to own the weather today. And that's, you know, where we're at. You know, weather modification history, aircraft cloud seeding. Let's go past the weather warfare section. I've got one more slide in this presentation that I wanted to show you guys. So, geoengineering public acceptance. This is from the same presentation, slide 27. Accidental geoengineering. Begin geoengineering, climate engineering, or climate intervention using pollution sources that create clouds. Call it an accident. Geoengineering governance. Step 2. Write laws to exempt technocrat scientists from legal liability. Step 3. Field experiments, like David Keith. Begin testing geoengineering technology and gauge public response. See David Keith's SCoPEx. Legal global deployment. Gain control of Earth's thermostat to alter rainfall patterns worldwide. Own the water. That is, in a nutshell, exactly what's going on. So, geoengineering is about the control of water. And they know it. Now you know it. Now you can see the big picture. That was my presentation for today. If you go to weathermodificationhistory.com, all 4 of my presentations are at the bottom of the page. You can scroll past the interactive timeline, our news vault, the 10 technologies to own the weather today, people, patents, programs, laws, my interview with the top historian on the planet, Dr. Jim Fleming, the weather modification map, and then you will see the 4 presentations. Each one has a link to the presentation page, download PowerPoint, view on Google Slides, and a fact page for each. Geoengineering, weather modification, weaponizing nature, ionospheric heaters, space weather control and geophysical warfare, carbon black dust, the chemtrail secret for weather warfare, geoengineering, and ozone destruction. I think you guys will really get a kick out of that one. I'm going to drop that link in chat. Have fun with that. That one's a real head kicker. And then finally, the climate changers and water wars, technocracy, geoengineering, and replacing the water cycle. Fresh water has been dubbed blue gold in many publications, as potable water will be to this century what oil was to the last century. So now you see the big picture. And that's why I proposed my solution to all of this, the Environmental Modification Accountability Act. You can find it on climateviewer.com/nmod. I hope that you guys will support that. And then also, good news, Hands Off Mother Earth Manifesto, a permanent ban on geoengineering, led by the ETC Group and Biofuel Watch. Please read their manifesto. Send them an email at manifesto@geoengineeringmonitor.org. If you guys have not been to Geoengineering Monitor yet, I suggest you do. These guys are epic. Appreciate that, Bamboo. You the man. They've got this geoengineering map, as you can see here, and you can go through all of the different experiments. And as you can see, I think SCoPEx is right here. Yeah, there it is. This is where SCoPEx was supposed to happen, right here in Tucson, Arizona, and you can read all about it. But this is the ETC Group's geoengineering map, and it has all of the different types of, it's got some weather modification stuff in there too. But solar radiation management, from cirrus cloud thinning to high albedo crops and snow forest clearance, marine cloud brightening, micro bubbles in sea foam, stratospheric aerosol injection. It's a great map. Please check it out. I'm a supporter of ETC Group. I know a couple of guys over there, Jim Thomas, Pat Mooney, Sylvia Ribeiro, and I've worked with them in the past. I will continue to support their work. So you guys check that map out. I'll drop the link to just their map right here in chat, because you guys may not have seen that. Steven, love you, mean it, brother. Thank you for the donation. So this stuff is pretty crazy, and I hope that you guys will get into the real world of geoengineering. Stay away from the fear porn. Get educated. Come over to Weather Modification History. Click on Timeline and go through the entire history of weather modification and geoengineering from 1800 to present, covering things like HARP, lightning control, hurricane modification, Harvard Solar Geoengineering Program, David Keith's SCoPEx thing, how they're using biofuels for contrail control. You can click tags and see things like doped jet fuel. Just all of this stuff is all right there. So if you want to know about hurricane control, click on hurricane modification, and you can see things like the thunderstorm solar powered satellite, the hurricane modification workshop. The list goes on, and just solar powered satellites, dating back to 1929. The Nazis were going to create one. It was called the sun gun. Anyway, so come check out the interactive timeline. It goes all the way back to, there's the Solar Radiation Management Governance Initiative. Each one of these pages is loaded with references, photos, and videos. Freedom of Information Act requests from the governments, the militaries, on their plans to do weather modification, war, and all of that stuff. Back to the CIA and how they controlled the weather over Cuba, and they did it in Operation Popeye. The original HARP from 1965, how Lyndon Johnson said that we will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer. You guys got to know the history, the entire history of weather control, because once you know this history, you will not be doomed to repeat it, and you will be part of the solution. So I hope that you guys have found this video informative. So India, really, they're going to get hit hard with this geoengineering stuff. They already are. And their Indian Space Organization found, this black carbon at 18 kilometers, which is proof positive that planes are geoengineering, whether they want to call it an accident or not. The problem is that most people don't want to understand any of the science behind it. And once you do understand the science behind it, you'll be able to do what I do, and that is go and talk to these meteorologists, these geoengineering scientists, and literally bend them over your knee and spank them gently on their buttocks because, you know, I know the history. I know what they're up to. I saw what you did last summer, and I'm telling everybody. So that's why I do what I do. Everything that's on climateviewer.com, climateviewer.org. If you guys haven't checked out climateviewer.org before, I highly suggest you do. It's Climate Viewer 3D. You can monitor your Earth. I have a special section, you know, that's specifically devoted to geoengineering and weather modification. You can see Climate Viewer 3D. Come here and click on the map list. Go to just say like NASA Gibbs satellites, visual, and bring up the ship track highlighter, and it'll bring up the satellites for today, and you can scroll in and see the ship tracks through the clouds, even the ones that aren't visible normally, like these right here. So pretty neat stuff. You're not going to see this anywhere else, let alone all in one place. And then overlay that with everything from nuclear power plants, NSA facilities, all of that stuff. Add maps, come up here to the top, go to pollution and privacy, government and surveillance. You can see, you know, the undersea cables, all of the NSA facilities, how they're spying on you, like this, and all of their spy facilities like the Utah Data Center. And of course, you can see geoengineering and weather modification activities by going to the geoengineering section and seeing weather modification reports, cloud seeding generators, lasers and directed energy weapons, extremely low frequency VLF, ELF, ULF, HARP and the ionospheric heaters of the world, the actual HARP facility, the space fence, cloud seeding generators galore, solar radiation management field experiments, and the list just goes on and on. And when you get done, you're going to have a very busy map of things like GWEN towers, all of the GWEN stations, VLF facilities, rainfall enhancement programs, cloud seeding generators are the fire generators right here. And you can see the reference maps, where I got them from, and all of that. And then when you're done, you can actually share the screen by clicking here or getting a short link. And if you do that, you can go to that and share it with a friend. And guess what happens? It'll pop all that crap right up on the screen, exactly where your screen was, and you can share it with other people. So check out Climate Viewer 3D, climateviewer.org. On the sitemap, you can also see all of the maps that are available. There's over 587 maps available, history, ranging from history and science to, you know, all the stuff that I've mapped out. Live alerts like air quality, earthquakes, hurricanes, lightning, rain and snow, fires and volcanoes, wind maps, NASA Gibbs satellites, everything that's on NASA Worldwind or Worldview is available on Climate Viewer 3D, including the SIMS, Mimic, microwave imagery, the EU METSAT, all of their stuff, the U.S. Naval Research Lab, and GOES. And then if that isn't enough for you, you can click the Earth Monitor section and see things like satellite tracking, you know, stuff in space, you know, just tons and tons of different things that are just going to blow your mind all in one spot. So, and you know, like I said, I've also got the same thing with the, you know, RAMDB slider. You can go see the GOES 16 imagery right from the Earth Monitor pop up. And, you know, there's tons in here, RSO EDIS, you know, the World Air Quality Index. I tried to get Mike Morales to pull this map up today. Maybe he'll start using it, but this is actually the world's most, you know, it's got more details than anything else I've seen on air quality. And what you do is you scroll in on these, and when you click on them, what you're going to find is they have some pretty interesting air quality readouts on, you know, PM10, O3, NO2, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide levels, all that stuff. And this is AQI.org. Anyway, boy, I'm getting sidetracked too much to show all at one time, but it's called World's Air Pollution Real-Time Air Quality Index, and it's a hell of a map. As you can see, China always in the red, dark, hazardous red. I would hate to live there. Oh my God. But anyway, we got a really screwed up world, and knowing is half the battle. So I hope that you guys will check this stuff out. We got space weather tracking, ship tracking, flight tracking, climate change tracking, power plants, radio frequency monitoring, and the list goes on. All of this is available under the Earth Monitor button right here at the top of the screen. Mike Morales just sent me his list of stuff that he uses for his video. I'm going to add all of those links as well to the Earth Monitor, so they'll be available in here as well. And you know, check it out. It's all free of charge, advertisement free, and I do all of this under a Creative Commons non-commercial license. It's available at the bottom right here, and all that says is that you are free to use this information. It's called an Attribution Non-Commercial 4.0 International. You are free to share, adapt, remix this stuff as long as you give attribution. Just give a link back to where you got it from, and you cannot sell it ever, period. Because this is my good turn daily. Was previously a Boy Scout, and I've got 2 daughters, and I'm trying to save the world here. So selling all this information would be pretty stupid. So all I ask in return is donations. So if you guys could continue to support my work at patreon.com/climateviewer by giving a monthly donation or a one-time donation on PayPal or GoFundMe, I would greatly appreciate that. I spend on average 40 to 60 hours a week working on my 3 websites, climateviewer.com, climateviewer.org, and weathermodificationhistory.com. I actually spend way more time working on the websites, reading things, and doing research than I do making videos. I will try my darndest to make more videos because I know that it's valuable for people to hear an explanation because there's so much there to read. But guys, you got to read it. You really got to get in there and dig in and learn this stuff. Oh yeah, and I didn't. Pam's telling me to mention the reporting app. When you're on climateviewer.org, if you want to get to it, the easiest way to do it is just click on Earth Monitor, and right here at the top, I'll blow it up real big so you guys can see it. It says Climate Viewer Reports. Oh, I'm doing it again. I'm just staring at my other screen. It says Climate Viewer Reports. Submit Climate Viewer Report or view Climate Viewer Reports. So if you submit a Climate Viewer report, you can actually create reports like these. And you can see somebody reported plane farts. Love you, mean it. Who reported plane farts? I love you. Bel Air, Hartford County, Maryland. That's got to be Radical Ralph. Ralph, did you do that? You funny guy. Oh my gosh, he didn't leave his name, but I know that's got to be Ralph. Anyway, so, oh, yep, those are certainly plane farts. So he put in these photos. You can upload your photos, put a dot on the map where they were located, and surely enough, those are plane farts. Geoengineering the sky, creating cirrus clouds. Oh my God, I love it. I love it when people call them plane farts because, language is powerful and people like to screw with you. But to create your own report, it's pretty simple. Report plane farts in SC. I hate these darn things. Description. Click Skywatch reports. Also, there's categories for freaky weather, electromagnetic, or news. First name Jim, last name Lee. Email jim@climateviewer.com. You can do this completely anonymously. You don't have to do what I'm doing. I live in Sumter, South Carolina, so to put the dot on the map, I just type in Sumter, South Carolina, and then I hit find location. Give it a second, and you'll see that it is now filled in the location right here, and it has moved the dot to my hometown in, damn it, in Sumter, South Carolina. Boom. So it's going to put a dot right in the center of my town, not my home address. If you want to put your home address in there, you most certainly are welcome to. And then news source link. Yeah, let's just grab one. I go in, I grab this one, and I put it in there. If I want to add another one, I can click the little plus and add another link. External video links. You can grab a YouTube video or two. Very easy to do. So let's go to this page right here. That's a horrible example. Let's go to this one, the one I've already got up. And I'll grab the YouTube link from it, video link, copy link address, go to submit, put that in there, and hit, upload files. This is where you actually can choose your photos and upload them. So you hit choose photos. We'll grab that soot photo I did, and you'll see it says soot transfer harp. If you want to add another one, click the plus sign, or you can get rid of that. Yes, I want to remove that. And then you hit submit. And when you hit submit, your reports will come out over here under reports. And guess what? All of these reports, Double Dog Freeport, Maine, Double Sun Dog. Let's check that out. It's a pretty cool looking photo. Yep, there it is. All of these reports will end up on Climate Viewer 3D. Just so we're clear, I'm going to clear this out, and you go to Add Maps, scroll to the top. Under Live Alerts, you will see Climate Viewer Reports. And what we have here is Climate Viewer Reports 2011 through 2017. And we have the reports from January through November of 2018. I need to add the ones from December. But these are all of the Climate Viewer reports worldwide that have come in since 2011. And each one of these, when you click on them, we'll have a link to the original hail, fire, golf ball size frozen rain pelts Siberia. Click the more button, it'll take you over there to the actual report, and you can see it. There's the video. And all of the Climate Viewer reports end up in Climate Viewer 3D and on Climate Viewer Mobile. Pick your poison. But, okay. So Pam, I mentioned it. And thank you so much to Pam Jones for Liberty. She has been a great supporter of the Climate Viewer reporting app. Telling a lot of people on Twitter to go and post their reports. I hope that you guys will post your reports as well. Let's put a link to that. I'll just go to the front page of it, and I'll drop that in chat so that you guys can see. This is the Climate Viewer Reports reporting app, and you can submit a report right here. You can get alerts also if you want to. You can draw a circle around your house, and if anybody submits a report near your house, you'll get an email update, or you can download all of the reports simultaneously. Ooh, we have a nuclear event. Official and mainstream news. These are RSS feeds from things like RSO EDIS. We have a nuclear event where... Don't want to get sidetracked video. Cooper Nuclear Station in Nebraska. Doesn't say, let's see. I'm not going to read it. I'll get sidetracked. But yeah, that's what the Climate Viewer Reports app is for. Put your, go take your photos of your chemtrails, your contrail-induced cirrus, your aviation-induced cloudiness, your plane farts, and submit your videos. All you have to do is upload them to YouTube and then put the link in the report, and it'll actually embed the video in your report. We need to gather as much evidence as possible. My goal eventually with the Patreon support is to be able to create a sensor that you can put in your backyard that does this automatically or automagically. And it'll have an all-sky camera that views the sky over your house, records it, displays it in real time on Climate Viewer 3D. It'll also, didn't I just drop that? This is the link for reporting. Just click Submit Report. It'll also do real-time rainfall samples so that we can see what's raining out in your backyard, test for metals, test for, you know, all kinds of chemicals, and display that in real time, as well as your normal weather station kind of stuff. So hopefully we'll be able to create a climate viewer for your backyard someday soon. I really want to be able to do that. It's a long-term goal, and if I get by with a little help from my friends, one day that'll be a reality. Until then, I'm going to keep on digging into the history of weather modification, geoengineering, and space weather modification, and educating people on that. And I appreciate everybody who tuned in tonight. I hope you guys will share this video, like it, leave a comment later on, you know, and tell people about, you know, what's going on. That basically geoengineering is about controlling the water cycle. They know it's going to control the water cycle. They know that it is going to, you know, kill people. And that's what solar radiation management governance, geoengineering governance is about how to deal with the losers. And those losers are mostly going to be people in the southern hemisphere and or people who are affected by flooding and, you know, monumental snowstorms in the northern hemisphere. They know it. Their models predicted. That's what happens when volcanoes go off. They are trying to mimic volcanoes. That's what this is all about. So guys, links in the details. Check out the presentations on weathermodificationhistory.com. There are 4 of them. They'll show you the big picture, and then you can jump into all of the finite details in the interactive timeline and the 875 newspaper articles we have from 1800 to present on weathermodificationhistory.com. So guys, I love you, mean it. I hope you guys will have a wonderful new year. And, you know, remember that this information, knowing is half the battle. And with information comes power, and with power comes great responsibility. So I only ask that you use that power to attack ideas, not people. Love you, mean it. Be safe in the new year.